Today we're going to be looking at a problem that involves proportional reasoning. And we are going to solve this problem using proportions. Well, what is a proportion? A proportion is a number sentence that shows two equivalent ratios. It's a name that we give to a statement that says two ratios, or fractions, are equal. If the ratios are the same, it means they are in proportion to one another. Can you think of an example of two ratios that are equivalent, or two equivalent fractions? Jot down your answers. You may have come up with an example such as 5 over 10 is equal to 1 over 2, since we know that 5 is half of 10. These two ratios, or fractions, are equivalent. What other examples can you come up with? Let's think about this as we look at today's problem. Today's question says that a standard punch requires 2 cans of orange juice and 1 bottle of ginger ale. When using 4 bottles of ginger ale, how many cans of orange juice are needed for the punch? Let's start by underlining important information. We know that the punch requires 2 cans of orange juice and 1 bottle of ginger ale. Can you think about what the ratio might be? What are the two things that are being compared? Right, orange juice and ginger ale. So let's write that as a ratio. Here's a two-term ratio that relates orange juice to ginger ale. But how many cans of orange juice do we need and how many bottles of ginger ale? Well, the question says that for every 2 cans of orange juice, we're going to use 1 bottle of ginger ale to make our punch. So we have a 2-to-1 ratio. What is the question asking us to find? Well, the question says when using 4 bottles of ginger ale, we need to figure out how many cans of orange juice are needed. So where am I going to write the number 4? Well, since 4 represents the amount of bottles for ginger ale, let's write that underneath the word ginger ale. Do we know how many bottles of orange juice we need if we have 4 bottles of ginger ale? No, this is what we need to figure out. I want you to think about different ways that you could solve this problem. Today we're going to solve this using a proportion. Well, as you learned earlier, a proportion is a number sentence that shows two equivalent ratios. So let's rewrite our ratios to show that they're equal. 2 to 1 is equal to something to 4. Now we don't know what that something is, so let's give it a letter or a variable. A variable is used to represent an unknown. Let's choose x. We can also represent proportions using fractions, so let's rewrite this as fractions. 2 over 1 is equal to x over 4. What does x represent again? X represents the number of cans of orange juice that are needed for the punch. So how are we going to solve for x? How can we find the missing value? Well, I know the denominator in each ratio. So now we need to figure out the scale factor. I need to figure out how did I get from here to here? What happened to the number? Is it increasing or decreasing? It's increasing. So let's think of a number that we can multiply 1 by in order to get 4. Well, if you're not sure, you can always divide to figure it out. 4 divided by 1 is 4. So that means 1 times 4 is 4. So we multiplied 1 times 4 in order to get to 4. This number here is referred to as the scale factor. Now that we know the scale factor, we need to multiply the numerator by the same number. 2 times 4 will give us the missing term in the proportion. 2 times 4 equals 8, which means that x, our missing term, is equal to 8. Does this make sense? Well, let's check our answer. We said that 2 over 1 is equal to 8 over 4. Are these fractions equivalent? Well, since 2 over 1 is equal to 2, and 8 over 4, or 8 divided by 4, is also equal to 2, these two fractions are in fact equivalent. So we've just found the missing value. We just found the number of cans of orange juice that are needed for the punch. What if we express our proportion differently? How about if I write 1 over 2 is equal to 4 over x? Do you think this represents the same thing? How about if I write 1 over 2 is equal to x over 4? Does this represent the same thing? No, it does not. You need to make sure that the first terms are where the numerator or denominator is, in this case the denominator, and the second terms are where the denominator or numerator is, in this case the numerator. This proportion is correct. So how can we solve this? Another way we can solve this is by cross multiplying. We're going to find the cross product. So I'm going to multiply 1 times x, that can be written as 1x, and then we're going to multiply 2 times 4. 2 times 4. 1x is equal to 8, or x is equal to 8. Did we get the same answer as before? What did x represent? X represented the number of cans of orange juice that were needed for the punch. Therefore, 8 cans of orange juice are needed for this punch, and that's when we're using 4 bottles of ginger ale. Remember, this was just one way of solving this problem. Can you think of different ways you could have solved this problem? Check out our playlist to find different ways of solving the same problem.